Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Toomer Talk Show on Tuesday. How are you? I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer, a family medicine, community health physician, and Total Weight Care Institute founder. And so, what I'm going to talk about today is how to eat anything, really. Now, the reason I use the title "How to Eat Peach Cobbler" is because I live in a state where peaches are very prevalent. And this is the time of year when we get the biggest, juiciest, freshest peaches. And so there's always peaches in the house. But if any of you have heard me talk before, when I talk about fruit, I always talk about how fruit is sugar with vitamins attached. And therefore, they have to be handled in a very specific way, not to cause weight gain. And the reason is because our body uses glucose, the breakdown of sugar, as a clue or as a cue to make fat in our body, particularly those of us who have any genetic predisposition for diabetes, who have insulin resistance, who have polycystic ovary syndrome, who are going through menopause, who are under a lot of stress. All these things change how our body handles carbohydrates. Sugar is a carbohydrate. And so in fact, it's one of the most effective carbohydrates. I don't know if you call it effective, but it's one of the carbohydrates that we have to really manage well in order not to gain weight or in order to maintain a healthy, going through our healthy journey. And I know I say weight, but really what I'm talking about is fat. You can have too much fat in your body and not be overweight. So weight really is just the word I use because that's what everyone else uses. But really, what it is that we mitigate ways that our body makes fat. And so there are lots of foods this time of year. There's lots of food all times of year that actually can kind of cause some issues. And so I'm going to talk about those today, some of our favorites. And I put in the title Peach Cobbler, but I'll be talking about all the things that we like to eat. One of the biggest, I should say, sadnesses that I see is when people um, stop eating their favorite foods or stop drinking their favorite drinks because they think that it's going to derail their weight loss journey, their weight health journey. And if it's not done correctly, then absolutely that can happen. However, there are ways to get around it. I am of the opinion that food is a self-care mechanism when done correctly. Food is a way of connecting to culture. It's a way of connecting to the world. It's a way of enjoying our friends and family. It is extremely important psychosocially. And so giving up favorite foods, giving up anything that affects our ability to enjoy food, to me, is a tragedy. And so I spend a lot of time with my patients and clients on how to eat their favorite foods and not give them up. Because otherwise, this becomes is a chore. Um, and hold on just a minute. I need to block someone who is oops, being a troll. Okay, so that person has been removed. All right. Um, and so what I do, and of course, um, people often say that you're not successful until you have trolls. Well, I guess I've inherited some trolls. So, um, oh, sorry. They changed the system, and so you click on something and it ends up putting it out over the whole thing. Sorry about that. So I like talking about how you can eat foods and enjoy people and enjoy the times around food without it causing you a problem. And the reason I talk about peach cobbler is because I made a big pan of peach cobbler the other day. And as some of you know, I have lost over 100 pounds. I've never gained any of that weight back. I started about 25 years ago and I lost it in increments. Total now about 110 pounds. However, I have never gained weight back and I've never restricted my eating. And there's a reason because what I did was I created a program for myself where I could eat. And I figured out a way of tricking the body essentially into thinking you're having a ketogenic diet when in fact you're not. And so that is the key. So why is this important? Because when you eat foods that aren't necessarily the best for you, and you're unable to eat them in moderation, then it can cause problems, basically fat production. It can cause problems with clogged arteries, and can cause problem with dementia, kidney problems, intestinal bloating, and all sorts of things, gallbladder issues. And so it's I'm just going to start off by saying anything you eat should be done in moderation, even the things that are healthy. And so let's get into it. Um, put in the chat. I'm just curious, in the chat, tell me what your favorite thing to eat is. Like the one thing that you love to eat, but you've given it up, or you feel guilty every time you eat some of it. I'm just really curious. And I'm just going to say hello to everyone who's here. Thank you for joining. Let me know where you're listening from. And if you're listening later, put in hashtag replay, and then also tell me where you're listening. Potato chips. That's a very common one. Anyone else? What are your favorite things to eat? Pizza. All right. Another one. Those are actually, both of them were on my list. So I'll tell you how. Ice cream and black cake. Oh yeah, you're my girl. I'm a ice cream and cake person too. Anyone else? Just post in the chat. Strawberry cheesecake ice cream. Okay. So we're going to get through some of these, and you all can just keep adding them. Unfortunately, right now, it just seems that I'm mostly seeing the comments coming from YouTube. If you're on Facebook and you're trying to post something, I'm going to open my phone just so I can see. For some reason, it's not coming through here. So I'm going to go to my page and open it from there so I can see your comments. Let's see here. Okay. Oops. I don't want the sound on. Okay, because otherwise it's going to start echoing. Okay. So if you're on Facebook, I'm going to try and get you, but mostly what I'm getting are the comments from YouTube. So, I see a Facebook comment. So it is coming through. Barbecue. Okay. So the key to eating anything you want, and I'm going to throw in some beverages at the end as well, is to mitigate the carbohydrates that are in whatever it is that you're eating. The more sugar that's in it, the more moderation you need to have. Mainly because sugar is the one thing our body just takes and makes fat out of no matter what we do. And even if you don't have any type of glucose dysregulation, if you don't have any metabolic dysfunction, or your metabolic status is absolutely perfect, your body is still going to try and take sugar and make fat out of it. And so there's ways to counter that, but always in moderation. Always eat sugar in moderation. So we're going to start with Evelyn. She said potato chips. One of the things that happens, particularly with potato chips, is we crave them when under stress. And that there's a reason for that. When you're under stress, your cortisol levels go up. Your cortisol levels push you towards insulin resistance. Your brain thinks you're not eating enough. Your brain thinks it's not getting all that it needs. And so it makes you crave sugar and salty things that are high in carbohydrates. Potatoes, white potatoes, are particularly high in carbohydrates. The way you counter them, one, never eat potato chips out of a bag. Always put them in something where you can control the portion and you stick to that portion. Whatever the portion size they say on the bag, that is essentially what you should have. The issue we run into is that you have these bags and they have like 4 or 5 servings in the bag, and we eat the whole thing. So first you want to limit to 1 serving. Then you want to take the potato chip and dip it in something that's high in protein or high in fat, or preferably both. Some type of sour cream dip, cottage cheese dip, something. What I like to do is I take cream cheese and mix it with sour cream and a bit of onion powder and mix it up, and I make my own dip. Some you can throw some chives in there, or you can just buy it. But dipping it in something so that you're actually eating dip that is at least half the size of the chip. Because what that does is it slows down your body's absorption of the carbohydrate that it is. And when it slows down the carbohydrate that it also slows down the triggering of your brain that tells your body to make fat from it. So if you want to eat potato chips, make sure that you're eating it with dip. And I'm trying to go up in the comments, but for some reason it's if I click on it, it shows your comment in the thing. Okay. Hold on. Here we go. All right. So potato chips. So we got that. Portion control. Add some type of high protein, high fat, something with it, potato chips and dip. That is the way you eat them. One, and also it makes it more satisfying. It fills you up faster and you tend not to just keep eating them. The other is always find out why. The first thing that you should do before eating anything actually is to drink water. Often our body mistakes thirst for hunger. And so it will make you hungry, make you want something when in fact you're just thirsty. So drink water first, or drink something, a non-sugar drink first, if water just isn't something that you really want to have. So next one here is pizza. Pizza is a big one. I hear a lot of people who give up pizza because they say it's bread and bread is bad. Well, it is bread when you order it as hand tossed, thick crust, deep dish. Yes, then it becomes primarily bread. The way to counter that is you can do a couple things. One, order thin crust pizza. Two, again, limit the size, individual size pizzas, or 1 to 2 pieces or slices of pizza. Fill up on salad before you have your pizza. And the other is load the pizza with protein. If you eat meat lovers pizza, again, in moderation and only occasionally. You can't eat that all the time, obviously. But if you're going to have pizza, especially, you're going to a pizza party, or you have something at work and there's pizza around and you're hungry, or people say, we're going to order pizza. What do you want? Order the thin crust, high meat pizza if you're a meat eater. If you're not a meat eater, then thin crust, vegetables, order a salad to go with it. And that will counter the bread of the pizza slice. And in moderation, that's fine. Not all health journey days have to be weight loss journey days. Sometimes just status quo, holding steady is good enough. And so you don't beat yourself up over it. If you eat food out of guilt, when guilty, if you eat food and you're beating yourself up, it changes how your body reacts to that food. When you're calm, relaxed, enjoying every single bite, your body takes the food and pulls the nutrients out. When you're under stress and you're beating yourself up and you're guilty about what you're eating and you're like, oh my God, I shouldn't be eating this. Your stress hormone goes up, your body takes it and turns it to fat. So if you're going to eat something that you feel you shouldn't be eating, enjoy it. At least, and savor every single bite. So we got potato chips, how to handle those. We got pizza, how to handle that. Oh, you got cake and pizza. Okay. Denise has got both. All right. So we talked about how to handle pizza. Now we're going to talk about how to handle cake. Cake is a dessert, so that means we're dealing with sugar. We're trying to mitigate sugar. The way to eat dessert is to make sure it follows a no carbohydrate meal. You don't want to eat cake on an empty stomach, and you don't want to eat cake too far away from the meal you just had. You want to have something that's going to slow down your body absorption of the sugar in the cake. So eating meat and vegetables. So when I had my peach cobbler, I wanted my peach cobbler and I had ice cream to go with it. So I ate chicken and kale. I happen to like sauteed kale. Not everybody does, but I do. Um, and then I had my peach cobbler right afterwards with ice cream. And I ate everything very slowly so that my brain got the message that I was eating. I chewed my food until it was liquid so that every bit of nutrients was going to get absorbed from the good food that I was eating. And then when I had the peach cobbler, I did the same. Ate very slowly, savored every single spoonful so that my brain got the message that, yes, I've got something I'm enjoying and it's reacting to it. If you eat it quickly, you're going to eat more of it. So that's how you eat cake. Eat it right after having a no carb meal. The next one is ice cream and black cake. Well, we talked about the cake and how to do that. Ice cream, it is again dessert. Having ice cream with right after, this is true for all desserts. Eat it after a no carb meal and right after, so that the meal will balance out the sugar that you're about to eat. Now, when it comes to ice cream, you want the fattiest ice cream. Never eat no fat ice cream, because what that means is that the sugar now is a higher percentage of the ice cream. So you want the creamiest, fattiest ice cream to counter the amount of sugar that's in it. Now, there are some low carb ice creams that are out there that are actually pretty good. Some of them are not. You just kind of have to find the one you like if you want to go that route. But if you're going to eat ice cream and you want to make sure that it really engages all your senses, then you want the creamiest one. And that's then the fattiest one. So avoid the non-fat. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make. They go after the non-fat foods. And when they go after the non-fat food, there is nothing to stop the sugar from getting directly absorbed. Strawberry cheesecake ice cream. Now, again, same thing. You eat the fattiest one and you eat in moderation. Always use small small cups, small bowls, so that the little bit that you eat seems like a lot more. One of the things that are brought up here is cheesecake. Cheesecake is actually a quite wonderful dessert because it's really high in protein and really high in fat. So if you're in a restaurant, if you're someplace and someone says, do you want a piece of cake? If you have to choose cheesecake. If you like cheesecake and you can't think of anything else that you might want more, go with the cheesecake and avoid the sauce. It's those syrupy sauces that they pour over your cheesecake that is actually kind of the problem. So the trick that I do is when I look at the dessert menu first. When I go out to a restaurant, I check the dessert to see if there's something on there that I'm going to want to have. Because if there's something on the dessert menu that I want, it's going to change what I order for my meal. And so what I'll do is look at the dessert menu. If there's something on there that I want, what I'll do is have the carb removed from the meal and have it double vegetables. And then I get my dessert. Now, that's in the ideal situation. However, sometimes I cheat, so to speak. I don't consider it cheating because if I want it, I want it. What I do, though, is make sure that I counter that with either, doing better the next day, drinking lots of water, exercising, doing some muscle work. And the other thing that I want to mention is that when you do muscle work the muscle will act as medication. People talk about GLP-1s all the time and they work really, really well. And this is how they work. They actually stop your brain from telling you to eat, and they make your brain make fuel instead of fat out of the food you eat. However, when you have muscle, your muscle will take over for some of that. It increases your metabolism. It improves your metabolic status. And so you can preempt your eating by building muscle. Now, muscle you can't out exercise a really bad diet, but it does give you more wiggle room. The more muscle you have, the more wiggle room you have. Let me see. Let me go up a little bit. They've changed the algorithm a little bit, and so they've made it hard to kind of see and up and down without throwing people's comments into the up for everybody. Okay, so we've got barbecue. Now, the issue with barbecue is the sauce, not the protein. And so so basically barbecue sauce has a lot of brown sugar in it usually. And so because it's usually over protein, it doesn't cause as much of a problem as people might think. It's usually the fixings that are the issue. It's the potato salad that we eat with it. It's the French fries that we eat with it. Or the now coleslaw is wonderful. If you want to eat barbecue, have coleslaw with it, because that is an absolute no carb side. And it goes really well with barbecue. And so you just don't want to add extra sauce to whatever you're eating. But barbecue in and of itself is not an issue. It's actually high in protein. It's a high protein item. And so that's a good thing. Just watch the sauce. Steve Holmes said, drink your Ensure and go to sleep, old lady. Huh? I'm not sure what that's about, but it looks like I have another troll. Okay. Wow. I must be doing something right. I'm getting trolls now. So Ronald says, that's me, stress eating. Stress eating, and let me just say this. A lot of times people blame themselves for stress eating as if it's under their control, as if it's their fault, as if, we all stress eat. And the reason that is because our brain, under stress, our brain essentially starts making us crave carbs, and either salty carbs or sweet carbs. And so, and also the brain thinks you're starving because it's pushing you towards insulin resistance. So it's not getting the one thing that sends signals to the rest of the body. And so when it doesn't get its glucose in its cells because of stress, it will tell you to keep eating. So the way to stop stress eating is to really go after the stress. And if you go on YouTube, there's lots of different things that you can do immediately. That's immediate, medium, or long term. But essentially getting your cortisol levels down, deep yoga breathing can do that quite well. Evelyn says, I mix onion dip with high protein yogurt. That's really good. Yeah. Or blending it with cottage cheese. Now, cottage cheese, a lot of times people are like, I don't like cottage cheese. Often it's the texture that people don't like. When you cream it, it actually tastes pretty good. And the other thing about when you blend cottage cheese, you can add whatever flavor you want to it. It doesn't have much of a flavor. It's the texture most people react to. But it's very high in protein. It's really high in protein. Let me see here. Let me go up. Trying to. Vande says she, I guess, do a small cauliflower crust with tons of veggies and grilled chicken every now and then. Cauliflower, and the thing is that cauliflower crust pizza is really healthy. And so you don't even have to avoid it. If you have cauliflower crust, and I thank you for reminding me about that. There are other ways of making pizza instead of using pizza dough. You can use what are they called? Tortilla. Yeah, tortillas. You can, and they're thin, and you can put sauce on it, and you can put all sorts of stuff on it, because often it's more the shape and the combination of flavors that we're looking for. And the bread doesn't have to be the star of the show. For some reason, I'm going to try and go up. Can't post comments to some destinations. Okay. Sauteed kale young. Okay. Dr. Tumor, I'm having a problem with my food. I am on maintenance dosage of my GLP-1. I'm starting to be hungry. Good. way more than I ever been. My GLP-1 is not helping with the food noise. Um, I'm at the lowest dose, but I am constantly hungry. Well, that's because you're at the lowest dose. Never liked this before. I eat very clean, high protein, steamed. So if you're on the lowest dose, you're not really on maintenance, because it is only designed, the lowest dose of a GLP-1 is really just designed so that you don't have um, side effects at higher doses. So if your symptoms are coming back, what that means is that that low dose has already reached its max capabilities, and that you may need to go up on your dose, especially unless you don't want to lose any more weight. However, hunger is not a bad thing. You need to eat calories in order for your body to function. Most of the fatigue I see on GLP-1s is because of undereating. Um, and so, but with food noise being treated, you go to the dose that stops it. So if your food noise is coming back, that means the dose you're on has done its job and you need to go up, or you're under more stress. And so that stress is pushing you back towards more glucose dysregulation. If you say, I eat very clean, high protein, steamed veggies, occasional carbs like rice, a piece of bread. And now I go to the gym 5 days a week, but I'm always hungry. What am I doing wrong? Well, you're not on the highest dose. You're not on a dose. You're not on your golden dose. Everyone has a golden dose on a GLP-1, and that golden dose means that the symptoms that you're having are stopped, but you still have hunger, but not overly hungry. It suppresses your appetite, but not completely. You still want to be able to want to eat food and enjoy food. And it gives you the control that you need. So if you're trying to control food noise, then you're not on the correct dose. Now, the other thing that could be happening, if you're going to the gym 5 days a week, you may be over exercising for the food that you're eating. So, not saying you're over exercising, but meaning you're not eating enough to sustain that level of exercise. If you're doing cardiovascular exercises, driving your cortisol up, and that's going to make you hungry. If you're overworking your muscles and your muscles aren't getting enough what it needs in order to sustain that level of activity, it's going to make you hungry just to build that muscle, because you're putting caloric demand on your body, and so your body is going to ask for you to eat more to meet it. So, and you're not necessarily doing anything wrong. You're doing everything right, except you should talk to whoever's prescribing your GLP-1 about your dose. Because if you're on the correct dose and you continue doing what you're doing, you're going to do very, very, very well. Kim says, I love cottage cheese and applesauce. Yeah, that's a nice dessert. That's a high protein, nice sweet. You get a little sweetness, a lot of protein, and that's really good. Bonnie said, naan and pita. Oh, you're my girl. Yeah, naan and pita bread. Now, the good thing about pita bread, when you have unleavened bread, which is what pita is, it tends to change how your body reacts to the carbohydrate that's in it. However, you still need to counter it. So eating it with cheese, or eating it with some type of nut butter, or eating it with some type of protein with, and vegetables, like, using it like as a sandwich, those type of things are always hummus, anything that's high protein, high fat to go with it. But eating it on its own, it will basically push your body into making fat out of it. What do I think of ashwagandha for cortisol control? It is actually very effective. Studies and studies have shown that what ashwagandha does is it helps mitigate your reaction to stress. It actually acts like an antidepressant and an anti-anxiety medication. Even though it's not a medication, it's actually a root, but that's what it does. And so it definitely works on cortisol control. But what it does is it blocks it blocks the effect of cortisol, not and your reaction to the stressor, but it doesn't remove the stressor. And so it's always important to address or investigate what it is that's causing you stress and see if you can change that. So there's three things when dealing with stress: the most immediate, the intermediate, and long term. Immediate, drop your cortisol. Intermediate, you learn how to not react to whatever the stressor is. So first is you block the stressor, or block cortisol with medication and meditation. Two, you um, try to uh, stop the effect of stress on you. Therapy, medication, sometimes learning different types of techniques that over time you improve and you block. And then the third is you learn how you remove the stressor. You change the stressor, and that's the long term. Good evening, Dr. Toomer. What do you consider the maintenance dose? It really depends. It's different for every single person. Anyone who's prescribing a GLP-1 knows this. Anyone who's prescribing a GLP-1 and knows what they're doing knows that there is no such thing as a maintenance dose that's the same for everybody. It's different for each person. And maintenance dose is where you're on a dose that controls your symptoms, controls your metabolic status, and at the lowest possible dose you can get away with, and at the farthest frequency you can get away with. And so if you're on a particular dose and you want to stop your weight loss, or you feel like all your symptoms that you were having before, like cravings, food noise, insomnia, inflammation, pain, if all those things are controlled, you want to see how little you can get away with. And so you spread it out, and then you start to drop. And that's different for every single person. And some people, like for someone like me, my maintenance is exactly the same as my treatment. I might spread out my frequency sometimes, but for the most part, not everybody changes what their dose is during maintenance. You don't have to. Said, you gained back a few pounds and I know I'm not eating. Okay, so not all weight gain is bad weight gain. Some weight gain is muscle, and that's good weight gain. So that's why I'm not a big fan of weighing every day. I'm not a big fan of goal weights, because if you're doing it right and you're building muscle, your weight may actually go up. And it will go up first before it comes down, because it will go up from muscle, and then the muscle starts going after your fat to feed itself, and then you start to go down. And sometimes you'll go up in weight, but you'll go down in size. So yeah, not all weight gain is bad weight gain, especially if you're working out as much as you are. You're more than likely are going to go up. But you just need to make sure that the exercise you're doing is correct one for you. Is beet juice good for you, and how much should I drink daily? Beets are better than the juice. That's the rule of thumb. Eating fruit is better than drinking fruit juice. Eating the vegetable is better than the juice from the vegetable. Beets are sugar. They have a lot of sugar in them. They may not taste very sweet, but beets and carrots, potatoes, all of them are starchy. They're starchy vegetables. Starchy vegetables are carb vegetables. So, but beets have a lot of nutrients in them. I mean, really good nutrients. So if you just don't like the taste of beets, limit to 1 glass a day. And make sure that you're not drinking it on an empty stomach, because it will make your blood sugar go up. Living in America is what stresses me most right now. Well, yeah, that's the case for many of us. Hello, dear aunt. Are there any tips or tricks for digesting meat on a GLP-1? The trick is chew meat until it's liquid. That's for all food. We have a tendency not to chew our food completely before we swallow it. And when you have particles of meat is very hard to digest in big pieces. So you chew it until it's liquid in your mouth. That's how we're supposed to eat. Rarely are we taught to eat that way, but that's really how you're supposed to, because what that does is the reason we chew food at all is to break it up into smaller pieces so that our stomach acid can act on it to break it down even more, so that when it goes into our intestines can pull out the nutrients. If you help it along by chewing it in your mouth and not making your stomach do as much work and not make your intestine do as much work, then that's what helps. Meat is one of those things you can do. You chew until it's liquid. Any more questions? Okay. Well, if you think of any questions later, you can write to me at help@drtumor.com. I'm going to write it in the chat. Make sure that you put in either like question from Dr. Tumor Talks or something so that my VA knows to flag the email. And for anyone who finds this helpful, who can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. There are many videos in my YouTube channel that you can that have a lot of what I think is good information. I like to think. Share it with friends and family who you think might help. With it might be this might be beneficial for. The other is and if you're interested in trying to work with me, I do strategy and plan consultations, and you can look on my website at drtumor.com for ways of getting in touch with me for that. Or you can just email me. I'm just trying to, there's some more comments and I'm trying to go down so I can see what they are. For some reason, it's just not letting me. It's not letting me kind of control the comments very well. Well, thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Marcia. Always here. Denise as well. So Denise says, my TDEE calculator, which basically means your total dietary expenditure. So basically the number of calories you're supposed to eat every day, says I should be eating around 1,600 calories, but I eat around 1,450. I exercise 4 days a week. How should I increase my caloric without gaining? Usually in the form of protein. So sometimes, protein shakes help. Ensure makes some really good products. You can make your own. That will add calories. You can add, like coconut oil to some of your meals, like if you make stews. You can add cheese to salads. You can add, just avocados are a really good way of adding calories that are healthy. You just look for foods that are caloric dense, but also high in nutrients, high in calories, but not high in carbohydrates. And you can look that up. There are lists. And you can look up those lists and just add it. Because you're not that far away. So, it wouldn't take much. Hey, Kelly, how are you? Isabel asks, is it bad if I eat a sandwich, wheat bread, turkey, add avocado? Bad. Okay, daily for dinner. This is the trick for eating a sandwich. You make sure what's between the bread is twice as much as the bread itself. So if the bread is this thick and you have 2 pieces of bread this thick, you want to fill it in between with things that are not carbohydrates. That's how you eat a sandwich. So deli sandwiches are big and thick like that. Very little bread compared to the amount of meat that's inside of them. Adding avocado is wonderful because it's a healthy fat. Turkey, again, protein. You just want to watch the sodium in it if you have any issues with hypertension. And if it's the carved turkey, then you're fine. There was a comment earlier. Unfortunately, I can't scroll up, so I'm trying to get to it. So if you had something, okay. It said, Poochie Lou said, I have a trainer and she's very aware of my body. I'm building muscle. I do mostly heavy free weights and some cardio. I've been at it for 2 years. Yeah. I mean, and that is exactly what you're supposed to do. Cardiovascular should be kind of low impact to help with your moods and help with cardiovascular health, and then heavyweight lifting. So if you're getting hungry, it's more than likely that you're just not eating enough calories for the muscle that you're building. If it's a new thing. And then it is rare for anyone who's on a GLP-1 to get away with the lowest dose. Unless now I do use it for a lot of times with women who are gaining weight for menopause because their BMIs are normal. The problem is that their body's shifting to fat, and you want to stop that because that's what causes problems with their health. That's what causes our cardiovascular and our dementia and all the rest. And so you want to stop it before it continues, and a low dose can prevent that. And so I usually use low dose GLP-1s for menopausal women, or for anyone who it has too much fat in their body, but their BMI is not high. And you'd be surprised how many people who are walking around who are fatty thin. Fatty liver, having body ratio issues where your fat is too high of a percentage, or your waist to hip ratio is too high. So even if someone is thin, if their waist is the largest part of their body, their health issues are exactly the same as somebody who may be overweight because of fat. So it's not about weight. It's about fat, where it is in your body and what it does. Any other questions? Well, if there's no more questions, we're kind of hitting the hour mark. I try to keep this to about 30 minutes if I can. So just write to me if you have any questions, share the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, invite others to subscribe, and I will see you next Tuesday. Cindy says, I have been unable to go above 2.5 due to anxiety and depression side effects. Yeah, it can do that. So you have to find other means to do the work that the medication would do at a higher dose, and that's muscle and cortisol, stress reduction, exercises. Meditation works really, really well, but meditation is a muscle. You've got to build it. And so that's important. All right. Well, I'll see you all next Tuesday right here. We're on we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, both at Dr. Toomer and at blackdoctor.org. And I thank you so much for being here tonight, and I will see you next week. Good night.